Hi, I'm just going to do a very quick intro so that you all can listen to the people you're really here to hear, which is the amazing students whose work is behind me and around me and all near me. But I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. I am Catherine Hicks. I am one of the scholarly engagement librarians here at Howard-Tilton. I do all of the visual arts. But I just wanted to talk really briefly about this student art in the library project generally. You can see a lot of student art around us, both the things we're going to talk about today, also all this photography on the wall. There's also a sneak preview of the next thing we're opening next week back on the 6th floor wall. We are in the process of really trying to showcase more student creative work as research output. The library has long been a place where we collect books and articles and monographs and other very traditional research output, and we're now making more of an effort to collect creative work as well. So this is my plug for anyone who is working on creative projects, especially if you're a professor whose student is working on creative projects, to let me know. And I promise I am very motivated to get that student work in the library for them to talk about and also for us to collect digitally as a way of showcasing the creative projects that people are doing. So without any further ado, I would like to turn it over to Professor John Chambers to introduce his amazing student, Ridley.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming out. Yay, Ridley, your game. It's our capstone game. So my name is John Chambers. I teach games and interactive media and digital media practices program. And Ridley is our first games capstone student. Woo! So if you're interested in making games, see me. And yeah, we've been working on this game for a couple semesters. It's really interesting, the research that she did. She'll talk about it in just a second, about this really weird, eccentric character of history, local New Orleans history, and aviation history. And, you know, it's part archival game as well. There's a lot of the text, and there's like clips from newspapers that are in there. A lot of the text comes from books that she found as well. So yeah, I'm really excited. This is sort of like playtest mode. We've got a couple weeks to polish it up, and it's going to be part of the library's. They're going to archive it, right? So yeah, so it's really exciting too. So yeah, I'll hand it over to Ridley and talk about it a little bit more. Maybe field questions. Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Ridley. Yes, this game's just, I've been working on it for probably 2 semesters now. The idea came to me, I was talking to my sister, I just looked up what MSY stands for. That's the airport code for the Louis Armstrong International Airport. And I found out it was called Moisant Stockyards, and I wanted to know a little more about that. It's about this aviator named John Bevins Moisant, and he actually crashed and died on the land where the airport is today. And they put stockyards there that were named after them, and then it's just kind of a coincidence that it ended up that way. So this game kind of explores going through his life. Yeah, like John said, there's a lot of like newspaper sources in there, and all of the stuff in there is based off of facts that I found from books about his life. And yeah, it's just been a lot of fun.
How did you make it? What software is it
on? This was made in Unity, which is what I've been working with the entire time that I've been doing game design here at Tulane with John. It's a good platform. It's kind of easy to learn, but you can get really in depth the more you learn about it. So yeah, we've been having a lot of fun with that.
Some collaborative process too with the musician.
Oh yeah, yes, for sure. Yeah, I have a lot of great friends who've helped me out artwork and music-wise. Tori and Olivia helped work on the art, and it's really great. I was inspired by the game Facade, which is kind of this kind of like old game where you can like type to people and they like talk to you and you're like in this apartment with these people and like going through their lives. And so I was, with the help of my artist, I was able to really capture that, I think, and go for the vibe I wanted. And then for the music, yeah, my one of my good friends, Brandon, is a music major at the University of Nevada, Reno, and I just asked him, do you have like a folder full of music that I could borrow? And he was like, yeah, and I just like fit them in the scenes, and it worked out really well. Yeah.
What was your favorite part of making the game?
I think honestly probably making the plane. That was really fun. Yeah, the plane model was, I just got into working with Unity Pro Builder, which I'd never used before, and making little models was really fun. It's kind of, yeah, it's a little cathartic and a fun way to spend my time. Yeah.
Is there like a clear trajectory through the story that you're telling, or is there like kind of like a goal-based scenario?
It's just story-based. So you're kind of following through his life based off, there's a modern take on it where you start in 2010, December 31st, and then you're flashed back to his life by talking to an apparition type version of Moisant in the airport who doesn't exactly realize he has died. And then you follow him all the way to the end and kind of go back to present day.
He buys you a bunch of drinks.
Buys you a lot of Bloody Marys. Yeah.
And the protagonist is a woman, or the main character?
Yeah, she's just a college student. I was kind of going off my own life there, but yeah, I wanted it to be in 2010, so it was exactly like 100 years after Moisant passed away. I was actually looking up pictures of the Louis Armstrong International Airport in 2010 because it was a much different airport at the time, so that was really fun to like research that and try to replicate that within Unity. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the research process? So you like Googled it first, found out what MSY was, which I don't know why I never thought to do that. But like, I know you also pulled in some primary sources, I think. Can you just a little bit about how that primary research happened and then you got it into the game?
Yeah, for sure. I'm also a history major, so I've had a lot of courses in using the Tulane Library to study historical events. So I used a lot of newspaper resources. Specifically, a lot of Times-Picayune articles were very, like, there were so many about Moisant, like, just when he was alive and out and about. And it's interesting because he doesn't really have much of a connection to New Orleans at all, other than he died here. But they were writing about him way before he even showed up. And yes, then I just found like books. There's never been a book specifically written about him, but there's books about his family and books about the aviation competition, the Gordon Bennett Cup that he competed in and won the race around the Empire, or around the Statue of Liberty, which was like $10,000 at the time, which not good at conversion, but that was a lot. Yeah, so there's an entire book about that entire competition that I read too, to get his point of view. He was crazy, and it was exciting to find out. The more and more I read, the more crazy he got.
I mean, there's the whole twist of coup attempt, right?
Oh yes, yeah, that's a big part. This was before he got into aviation. He tried to overthrow the El Salvadorian government with help of the president of Nicaragua at the time. Yeah, he was just a little crazy. And then after that, anytime anyone ever asked him about it, he said, "I don't know what you're talking about. That never happened." So I was kind of trying to keep that vibe of him, like, you're learning about this story, but he doesn't want to talk about it, is what I went for there. Yeah. Yeah. If y'all want to play it, it's about 15 to 20 minutes in total. And yeah, you can, all week, it'll be up here. Yeah, all week. Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about the physical hardware? And then we might reset for the furniture.
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, it's kind of a wee bit of a sad story. John and I worked really hard to hack this old flight simulator controller from the 90s, and we got it working to an extent. So we weren't able to get it up here in the library, but we do have a version of the game that does work with it on certain computers. So there will hopefully be some documentation of that as well. Just for now, this build can be played on any computer. So as long as you have a keyboard and a mouse or a touchpad, that's kind of what we got going on here. Yeah.
It's a little glitchy for public use.
Yes.
But we're gonna
Indeed. It's really cool. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. For a brief intermission, we're going to come back over here to talk about amazing furniture. So I'm going to turn it over to Professor Nick Perrin, who will introduce this project and then all of his wonderfully talented students.
All right. Okay, so thanks, everyone. Thanks, Catherine and Lisa, for initiating it. We're thrilled to actually have the pieces in a place for everyone to see them. So my name's Nick Perrin. I'm a professor of practice in the design program at the School of Architecture and Built Environment. So together with Professor Brian Bradshaw, we led this prototyping course last semester, and it's one that's part of the core curriculum in the design program. And this is a class where we give the students a couple restraints, and we ask them to design something at the scale of furniture. This is our portmanteau project, which is asking them to take two different uses or two different ideas and fuse it into a form. So at the same time, we're also asking them to develop a bit of woodworking skills. We kind of ease into that. And I think some of the students might speak to that a little bit more. But the basic way it lays out is they are each given a single sheet of 3/4 inch plywood, and then they cannot exceed that material. They can choose any variety of mechanical fasteners or friction fit methods of joinery to create their pieces, but there are no adhesives. So they're designing for form and they're designing for assembly at the same time. So it's a complex group of things that they're taking into consideration. And I think given that for the most part, everyone is a first-time woodworker, I'm always thrilled to see what people come out with. And, you know, we use the Millhouse, the CNC router that we have on campus as well. We have a lot of great resources at our fingertips now. And I think the work's just going to continue to kind of get better as students reflect on past students' work. I think that this is a selection of like truly the best work that we've had come out of the class in the past 7 semesters. So I'm thrilled for everyone to be able to see it, and I really appreciate it. Thanks. So I might pass the mic off to someone. Does anyone want to go first and talk about their work? Okay. Thanks, Maya.
Yeah, thank you for hosting this. I'm Maya. This is my easel. It looks like, I call it a cone, but it's an easel. So it's a modular display easel. All of these pieces come out and can be put. It's a great example, but they can come out and be put at different intervals up along the piece. And yeah, I'm a painter. And here I don't have an easel, so I kind of sat on the floor in my house. And wanted to think of a way where I could sit and have an easel. And that was kind of where the idea for it came from. And yeah, I really like 60s furniture and that type of stuff. So I kind of wanted to have that space age vibe design to it. And yeah, there's like a system inside of like crossbars and holes that these slot in and out of. And they're all made of one piece of wood. I don't know if Nick said that, but so it was kind of fun to figure out how to get it all to fit, but it did. And yeah, that's it.
All right, so this is my project. It's designed as like a space-saving furniture item. In its resting form, it's like a bench, but then it can be converted into 2 chairs and a table. This is a table. And then 2 chairs. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Claire. This is my games table. I wanted a space in my living room at my house here at college that my friends and I can play card games or checkers or chess. And so it's sort of designed so we can all sit around it and fits right within the little nook of our couch. And when you flip it up, there's some felt for playing cards, and then you can store all of your pieces beneath the table. And I think the biggest challenge was probably we started rendering in Rhino. And so then when it was time to sort of make a physical model, figuring out the scale was something that was interesting that I'd never done before.
Hi, I'm Maddie. This is the Sunday chair. I designed it to be completely modular and without hardware, so it's constructed with completely friction joints. And yeah, I was really intimidated by this class because, like my peers, we haven't really worked with wood before, but Nick made the process super easy, and it was great. It was iterative and very valuable, and I think I learned a lot.
Hi, my name is Shyla. This is the flip seat. It's basically 3 modular portions. And a big thing that I was trying to think of is like, what was a way that I could have like multiple uses of the furniture, but then also be able to store it. Also, since I'm from California, I wanted to be able to take it home. So this is like the expanded version. And one way you can use it is you can sit and like use this to put your feet up. Another thing you can do is if there's 2 people, someone can sit on this while the other person sits in the chair. And then this is meant to flip over and add more table space here and like latch onto there. And then another part of it is it's kind of like packable. And so I can like slide this down into here. And this part flips up and goes onto this seat. Oh. And then, yeah, it's just like one rectangular form that I can like fit in my car and hopefully drive home. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Sophia. I've designed this chair. I guess my goal here was to turn a very rigid and static material that plywood is into something more dynamic and flexible. That was the goal. The execution, we had some problems, like all of my peers have said, it's our first time woodworking, so we, had some battles with how things actually work, and I'm having this battle now with my capstone as well. I've decided to make things that I don't know how to make, but we're getting there, and we're learning, and this is a process, and it's all iteration, it's all love, it's all prototyping, you could say. So, yeah, this is
Questions?
What was the hardest thing in your chair to figure out, Sophia?
Interesting question, Professor Perrin. I would say the hardest thing was figuring out, A, where all these triangles went, and B, like it's basically fabric screwed on top of these triangles, and figuring out like the dimensions of the fabric and like the distance in between each triangle and how this basically played a role in the overall chair, if that makes any sense. And on top of that, obviously, this piece, getting it to actually stand upright. So that was a very difficult challenge for me, was I had a vision, and then sometimes the technical aspects get a little bit more difficult. So I guess the technicalities got a little bit, little difficult. Also software. I think we're all very new to like new software and whatnot, so trying to figure that out, but yeah.
What software did you use?
We used Rhino, and for like our other our detailed drawings and all that, we used like Adobe. But Rhino I think was our biggest like hurdle, because we used it like once before for another class, and we weren't like super I guess well versed in it, so it was a bit of a struggle trying to like take into like what you wanted visually, what you wanted structurally, if that would work, and also like the learning curve of like you can have like so many visions, but it's a little bit difficult to actually make that happen within like a software you're not super proficient in. But we learned, and we had a lot of tutorials.
I think that's one of the things, like the course itself it's still rooted in skill building, right? They're learning 3D software, so this new modeler, and they're learning ways of representing their ideas through construction drawings, right? So we do things like typical plan and elevation drawings, as well as like axonometrics, so that we can get a sense of this thing in proportion to our bodies typically, but trying to relate that back to the sheet of wood more often than not. So we're continuously going back and forth and testing these things. And every one of these little stages is a small version of the prototype. And I don't think that anyone feels like this is 100% done. This is work in progress in a way, and this is something that they could build off of and that they could edit. There's a whole kind of vocabulary of styles of making that I think come across in this, like whether or not this is how, like I think a lot of people end up making something the whole semester that they were envisioning in metal the whole time, right? And trying to get wood to speak the language of metal, and these things that are kind of outside of the realm of like what you would typically do if you were assigned like to make a piece of furniture for a client. So, I mean, there's this whole kind of creative world that weaves into it that I think is actually really exciting to just kind of ride. But yeah, the skill building is a huge part of it.
It's an interesting process. Like, did you make like maquettes, or how many iterations did these go through?
Yeah, there are plenty of iterations, but I'll let a student talk about it.
We started off really small. I don't even know what.
We did a 1 to 6 and one.
Itty bitty, and then we made a bigger one.
Because it's 3/4 inch material, we work with a 1/16 inch thick E-flute cardboard, and then we size up to 1/4 inch thick plywood. So we do a 1 to 6, and then a 1 to 3, and then we have the full scale build. There are also lots of little things that come in, like we do construction details. We remove like a chunk of this piece and try and imagine how that comes together.
I'm curious for the students, now that you've worked with wood and you've gone through this process, what are your thoughts on working with wood, and kind of, do any of you have other projects you want to try out, want to move forward with it? Has it opened like your mind to some new things?
I don't know. I mean, this is our first time working with wood, like we had said, or at least a lot of us. For me, it was like this is something so very physical and so very like real for us in the design program that personally, it's something that I really want to go into in the future. Just because I had so much fun with it. It was. I don't know. It was a huge learning point for I think a lot of us, just because we had that experience with hands-on materials. So, yeah.
Yeah, again, like my capstone, I am trying to get more into it, but I think I've learned that the CNC and doing things hands-on is very different, and very much a learning curve. And I think there's very different worlds to delve into and very different skills to understand. Which are both very important, which I've learned so much from making this, and I'm also learning so much making my other thing. But yeah, I think I guess I've learned how many different ways there are to make something and to build something.
I'd say thank you again to all of our wonderful students.